and jump right into the approval of the June, agenda. Yeah, June agenda. Any question or any objection to approving the June agenda? Okay. Approval of the May minutes.
Looks good.
Good to go. All right. Into item 4A. We're going to review some of the outstanding items. As we mentioned last month, want to use this meeting to tie up any loose ends. We had our first presentation of the resolution, the development review resolution, on Monday night. Was it Monday night? Man, this week is messed up. And a couple of ordinances that resulted from the work of the committee. And what I wanted to do today is obviously just tie up those loose ends, because this will hopefully be the end of the red tape committee, and going forward, any updates toward progress made will go to update to the PED committee. So with that, one of the and I believe I sent you all the letter from the HBA with response from staff. Is that correct? I want to make sure I did send it to everybody on the committee. Did you get that, Councilmember Marcano, maybe a couple days ago? The reason I sent it is just as an example, and that's what I want to talk through here with Jason, is kind of the detailed path that we'll take forward with the comments, not just from the HBA, from everybody, but I use that one as an example because we had that worked up. So Jason, do you want to talk through kind of what that process will look like going forward?
Sure, thanks, Councilmember. So we received dozens of comments across all different areas. And so what I've talked to Councilmember Zvonek about, and what staff is doing, is really trying to take those dozens of comments. And when we look at taking out sort of duplicative or sort of non-unique, there's some of them that are largely the same. They might have a slightly different spin, but really the underlying issue is the same. So what we've really tried to do is go through all of those. I will say, particularly on the development side. I've been focused on the development side, but I know that the same work's been going on. And I'd say the development side's probably at least 2/3 of the comments received. I think there are some comments outside of that. Obviously, Trevor's brought forward a couple of ordinances, and you guys are going to, I think, discuss ice cream trucks today as well. So I think obviously there's some things outside of the development process that are going to be addressed. But what we've done, particularly in the development process, is really try and get to the take all those comments and boil them down to action steps, is what we're calling them. So if you remember the presentation from Monday night, we really focused on that roadmap, and that roadmap really is those action steps that we are going to focus on and track. So I think that's, for us, how we're going to do that. When we provided that response back to the HBA, that's what we used, is that same roadmap to kind of tie each of their individual comments back to the action items, and so that they kind of know what to expect and when they might be able to see some movement on those things.
And just as then I'll open up to questions. Going forward, I want to think about a way to, whether it's on the website and then through PED, have a tracking sheet where people can continue to see, because there are some items and that were in that letter, and then in other parts of the development review process, there were things that we've handled. There are things that were in progress, and there were things that were still down the road. But I want to make sure that we don't lose sight of those and are continuing to be responsive to the feedback that we received throughout the hearings from this. So questions or suggestions, ideas for Jason and team around this idea? Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think we're all thinking the same thing, that we would get, some spreadsheet that just says done, in progress, went to an ordinance, went to resolution, that type of thing. So, because some of them were unique, there were a few that were very unique questions even from the development community.
Yeah, so absolutely. I think we can track if we need to each of those individual comments back to an action step. But I think what we're going to try and, from a staff perspective, is really focus on those action steps, because that's really where, for us, we want to see the process improvement. We want to see the ordinance change. We want to see that. And so I think those are what we're going to continue to focus on going forward, as Councilmember Zvonek said. So we'll report on those action steps as being either complete or in progress, and then provide regular updates on those. The other thing we've heard is, as we provide those updates, it will be helpful to focus on kind of perhaps what's changed. So what was occurring, what was the sort of state of play, and then what is the change. So for ordinances, that's a little bit easier. Typically, we do those in legislative format. You can see that it's right out in the open. The one we're going to need to make sure that we're doing are process changes. So when we talk about process changes, particularly in development review, what was the previous process? Perhaps what was even the outcomes? What was sort of our performance underneath that process? And then as we make those process changes moving forward, what performance are we seeing? So that's what we're going to include in those status updates as well.
Okay, and I just want so there were a couple developers that mentioned a fee, and I don't know, they were saying they were basically going to have to pay for something that is their property. I can't remember what that was.
License for
Yeah. So is this the licensing one, or is this the TCO? I know that the building division.
There was the TCO. The TCO was in the Home Builders, but I think the one she's talking about, it's the easement licenses. So where they have to. Yes.
So yeah, and I think I don't know if that was a fee so much as we had to sign a separate agreement. So that you're right. What they do is they deed over property and is in an easement. So it's their property. We make them commit an easement, and then when they cross it, we then make them do a license agreement. And so I don't think there's a fee associated with that. I think it's just more of a separate agreement on top of what certainly started out as their unencumbered property. We then make them dedicated as an easement, and then we then turn around and do a license agreement across that. That is one of the areas we're looking at and we'll be reporting on.
Okay, and then I'll just update on the Mile High Flood District that came up several times during the public hearings. So I did follow up with Mile High. They have reached out to our staff, water, and they are working to resolve some of the communication issues that the developers had. So they have committed to improving processes on their end.
Yeah, and there's been ongoing discussions there, and I think we're looking forward to continuing those. But thank you for your help. I know you sit on that board, and thank you for helping facilitate that communication.
But I want to make sure it's noted, like on your check.
We will do that. I think that's one of the areas that I think you remember in the action steps we talked about third-party referral agencies, and so Mile High clearly is one of those big ones. And so as we try and look at that process to whether we can do a direct referral out to them, I think that is one area that I'd say, unlike Den or unlike some of the other referral agencies, that's probably an area where we're going to have to stay a little more involved, because there's a little bit closer relationship, because it's just sort of a dual system. So both Mile High is responsible for sort of reviewing some of that stuff, but then as you noted, Water is then ultimately responsible for the maintenance and sort of other portions of that. So we'll need to stay very in tight communication with Mile High. So but we will report on that. And again, thanks for help getting that communicated, and we'll include that note that you've noted in our status updates.
Without jumping ahead to item 5, where we will talk about kind of an ongoing communication plan, those are exactly, Mayor Pro Tem, the types of things that I want to make sure that we're communicating out, all the little things that are getting done. Even, we talked about the library fee, something that's going to be done internally, just making sure that that's a part of when people can go either to the website or through some sort of external communication, they can see that this was the result of the feedback that we received either from staff or from members of the community. Councilmember Marcano, did you have something or? Nope.
Yeah, I'm
you're
in agreement, so I haven't had anything else to add to this yet.
Good. Okay. Anything else on this item 4A? Okay, item 4B, ice cream truck discussion. Mr. Vaughn, do you want to jump in?
Yes. So last time we talked, I got some basic ideas as far as a framework for an ordinance, and attached is the proposed ordinance to address ice cream trucks. The direction we went in based on feedback was not to do a special license for ice cream trucks, just to have them get the general business license. I did talk with one of the largest area vendors, probably the largest one, about this ordinance, and they said most cities, that's what they do, is just a general business license or peddler's license. They do have some license in that manner, but that there are more detailed licensed programs like in Denver, Commerce City, and Thornton that go through good moral character and background checks and on and on. There that add an extra level of scrutiny. But this approach was to just say that those that are registered sex offenders or have any crimes, sex crimes involving children, are not able to operate these ice cream trucks, and that the businesses should verify and make sure they're not a registered sex offender. Kind of the rest of the items are what we've seen in a number of ordinances based on some research, just good business practices. I did review these with the operation I talked about. They said, yeah, these are just kind of basic good business practices and reasonable regulations as far as making sure with regards to safety, since they're operating on residential streets, and also a little bit dealing with some of the noise issues so as to not disturb neighboring residents. So I can go through those in more detail, but they are included in your packet. And one thing I didn't have in there that the vendor recommended was a requirement for commercial insurance. Just adds an extra level of, I guess, quality to the vendor to make sure, and also safety for anybody that could be impacted by it, and making sure that they've got that. I didn't have that in there, and that was a question I had for the committee if you wanted that added. Last piece is that we do know this is a little bit behind on the time frame that you'd perhaps wanted, and so my question, just to verify, is that if you want to sponsor it and we can take it, we can put it on the agenda. I talked with the clerk about taking and putting it on the agenda for the 27th, informal, straight to the floor, skipping study session, because the next study session is not till July 18th. So
yeah. So
questions.
we had that and all of that, but yes, the answer is yes. I'd like to take it to the floor on the 27th. Yeah, I personally, I like the idea of doing the additional insurance. That's fine with me. I think that makes sense. But just given the Juneteenth observation and then the 4th of July, it really has study sessions built out. So we're doing this with another ordinance. So any questions for Trevor or any feedback on the ordinance as written?
I just want to ask about the Business Advisory Board, because I actually met with my appointee earlier today, and he was like, is anything coming to us? And I mentioned the ice cream truck and the gambling thing that we just did the other day. Do those normally go to BAB?
Yeah, in the last few years, we normally have been taking stuff like this to them, and I did plan to give them an update. I think it's on the 20. Well, it's be on the same day as the regular meeting, so they wouldn't get any lead time in order to provide feedback. So yeah, we did end up kind of missing them with the process on these items, just based on the quick turnaround time frame.
And I guess if you just give them an update, I'm sure it's fine.
Councilmember Zvonek?
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you, Trevor, for your work on the ordinance. I just also want to voice my support for the insurance requirement. And I have a question with regards to the definition of ice cream, and then also for ice cream vehicle. So does the current definition of ice cream also encapsulate non-dairy frozen products that might also be sold in an ice cream truck?
Yogurt?
Yeah,
Milk or any other frozen dairy, or we might need to adjust that. I'm not seeing non-dairy in there.
I didn't know if there was already some other kind of precedent where that would cover it, but I just wanted to make sure.
Frozen dairy. Oh, it does say or ice product or confection.
Okay.
So I think we're okay.
So that's broad enough. Okay, good.
Yep.
And then reading the second definition there for the mobile ice cream vehicle, would this effectively allow like a horse-drawn ice cream cart or something?
Yeah, but I will tell you one thing that you would see here are the push carts.
Uh-huh.
That would be also legalized with that definition. So yeah, you could have an animal powered. That is the old definition from 1957, I guess.
Okay.
You know where it goes, but
It
yeah,
could be a gimmick someone uses to get attention.
Yeah.
But
you know, you do see the push carts that go around with the bell on those. Those would be legalized with this in its current format as well.
I'm as excited a la paleteros, so that's good. All right.
And by the way, Tri-County Health does require a mobile food service license. They don't send them through the plan review like mobile food trucks, but because of the cold storage, and they do allow dry ice type storage as well. That's allowed.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Other questions of Trevor? Okay. Go ahead.
Just on the ice cream truck, are we going to kind of do a campaign on this as well?
Yeah, we got to talk to that vendor that Trevor mentioned and tell them that to come here. And that was the goal, was to try to get them legal by July, right? And have them around.
Sorry to jump in again. I think the answer to that being with June 27th, I think if the majority of council gives a sign off onto this, we could say after that we will not enforce the prohibition given the pending ordinance, as long as you follow the requirements in the pending ordinance. So then we would effectively be legal by the 4th of July.
Great.
Other questions of Trevor? Any objection to moving this forward to the June 27th council meeting?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you, Trevor. Item 4C was miscellaneous, and my thought here, and if there's nothing, that's okay, was just, I know that between those of us who've been sitting through these meetings, I just want to make sure we're not missing anything. Was there anything out there that you can recall that we talked about that we aren't covering or haven't covered, or that you want to just make sure that again, as we tie up all loose ends today, that we're not letting slip through the cracks?
I don't think so.
Okay. That's like, I just figured I don't have the best memory sometimes. So I just want to make sure that one of my colleagues had something to like, hey, he's not talking about this. Okay. So then we'll move on to the final item is the final report, and Kim and her team, we've talked about this a number of times, but just the outward communication, both in terms of what we have done, are doing, and kind of the progress going forward. And I know that a lot of this will be updated through PED, but I think, to the extent that we can push it out directly to home builders, developers, businesses, and just and to our residents, to inform them of some of the changes that were made as a result of the work and feedback that we got from our community. So Kim, do you want to take it? Are you on mute, Kim? She did pull this up, right?
She did.
She did. I think she disappeared.
I know. I
Actually, this is Adrian's screen.
I'm back.
Oh, there you go.
There we go.
At the very
There
moment
you go.
I wanted to talk, it dropped. I apologize. I had to reboot.
That's okay.
Isn't that how
That's okay.
it works? Well,
That's how it
thank you
goes.
for giving us a chance to visit with you and for the work of the committee. I think what's really going to be important before I get into some of the details of the communication plan is to make sure that we convey to not only our residents, but our businesses and other potential businesses that Aurora is not only open for business, which we've heard, but also will be the best place to do business, and that that our leaders, our city leaders, are busy working on improving and streamlining process, regulations, helping to reduce costs wherever possible. And some of those will be the overarching themes that I think Michael and I feel capture the work that you've been doing with staff here. So we can start. I'm going to start, and then Michael's going to visit about the website details, and then I'll wrap it up with our community outreach to help get the word out on the good work that's been happening here. So next slide, please. excuse me, so informing the public of outcomes. I think it's really important. I think it's pretty remarkable the timeline in which you stood up your committee and have taken action, and staff, along with staff, been able to make the changes that you have. So our goal will be to share these council actions, staff action work that are improving processes, reducing costs, removing regulations in support of a welcoming city and business culture and a flourishing economy. After all, that's really why it matters, is to keep our community and our economy thriving here. Audiences, of course, are residents, businesses, not only in Aurora, but beyond in the metropolitan area, as well as those who've been involved in this process because they've taken the time and energy to share their thoughts and suggestions with you. So we'll make sure that they're getting report outs as well. Timeline, we'll plan to launch this and the website as soon as we have a few things locked down. So the 27th, with some of those actions happen, and the more detail we have on the development review process and what is streamlined, and details like we talked about today on the ice cream truck ordinance, those are the details that we'll need to weave into our messaging. So they're not present in this PowerPoint today, but there is a placeholder for those. So, and that will be a living document on the website. So we'll continue to make that a place where people can go. It'll link over to other pages on the city site to make sure that people know that the work continues. So next slide, please. Michael, why don't you talk through the website details here?
Great, thank you, and good afternoon, council members. Michael Bryant, I'm the Public Relations Manager. So as Kim mentioned, we will be setting up this webpage for later this month, and the idea is that this is not a static webpage. We don't want this to be showing up as a one-time and done thing. We want this to be a place where people continue to go back and see what work we're doing and accomplishing, and the status and progress of some of the different activities that were discussed here with the Red Tape Committee. So we want to make sure this is as clear and concise as possible so people can go and get the information quickly and understand the work and the intent behind it. So we want to try to organize this into some areas of focus, and we want to brand the entire web page to make sure that it speaks to what we intend for this to be, the Aurora being a good place for business and open for business and welcoming. So we want to make sure that not only this page is there and updated regularly, but working with our website contributors across the city departments to make sure that any place where some of these efforts are reflected in our work is also referencing the changes that are happening, and then also linking back to this central page. We also want to make sure we have the room to provide some potential testimonials as well from people who were involved in this process and can speak to the fact that the city is listening and reactive and proactive to the work that this committee is doing. So next slide, please. So this is just a quick draft of what this web page could be organized like. We have kind of Aurora here for business as the title for it now, but that kind of central branding is something we will continue to put some more thought into and some different ideas around, and reach back out for your opinions and thoughts on that. But really our intent is to kind of organize this into a few different areas, one of them being simplified processes, although I think I typed that in wrong. I believe we're going to streamlined processes, reduce costs for residents and businesses, and then improve regulations. Adrian, you can go to the next slide, please. And so here is what we see as those areas of focus, and then just certainly not exhaustive, but just some ideas around some of the things that are either in progress or imminent that we would be able to include under those different areas. So that would be kind of where the website would be and how that would look. And I'll turn it back over to Kim to kind of talk about how we then get the word out into the community about the existence of this.
Yeah, and I do want to mention again, the messaging will be very important as we talk with the Aurora Joint Task Force for Development, with HBA, Associate General Contractors, all the people in that business. Will make it really clear the intent here and what's taking place through the changes in development review is to enhance the process for them, ease the way they do business with Aurora, make it a predictable process, because I know time is money for that business, and so they can anticipate and plan around the work that they do here. So I just wanted to point that one out. I know that's a very big one, but we're going to continue. Françoise, Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Bergan. No voice.
Got 'em all. That's okay.
I got them all.
Yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem.
And I gotta unmute myself. I don't mean to interrupt, but on the last bullet, we didn't change it for pawn shops, right? The distance,
No, just liquor stores.
just liquor stores.
I don't believe so. But yeah, I think this is just some examples. 'Cause there's lots of other things, right? We got rid of the Mylars. There's a bunch of things that are in the HB. I think this is where what Jason had talked about at the beginning, that kind of consolidated but yet exhaustive list of all of the various things. It's going to be critical that we marry those two, right? That the things that are reflected in that document are reflected here in the appropriate place, and then we'll make sure we have all the right things here. And as I think Michael said, this will be a living document in terms of like things that are happening, but some will be in progress, some will have already happened, and some will be underway.
Yeah, and we appreciate that. We need to get into that level of detail. This was an example of where that content would live under these general categories. If the committee feels that we've not captured those areas of focus properly, we can change those as well. But we want them all to live under those basic themes was the intent. So next slide, please, Adrian. So public outreach, we want to make sure that we're calling it appropriate attention to the efforts. We will create an Engage Aurora page on the Aurora page that exists. People have signed up for the project updates. We can communicate directly with that group. We'll continue to add information there. And then certainly the people who spoke at the hearings or provide written input will be given specific outreach so they know what actions have been taken. And then certainly these trade and business groups with a request that they include their information in their membership publications and communication methods as well. So really to help spread the word into the field as much as we can through all these groups, HBA, Chambers, South Metro SBDC, the Havana BID, Associated General Contractors, the Development Joint Task Force, I know is a really important group. And so there will be more. This is not an exhaustive list, but it shows you the kinds of trade outreach we want to do. So we're speaking in very detailed fashion, like you talked about Mylars and the issue you just spoke about earlier with Jason on the TCOs and the certifications and the right of way and in using their land. That level of detail isn't something that the public's going to care about, but this community will. So we're going to have to tailor make the messaging for the audience. So please know this is not exhaustive. It's to show you that we're going to target the work. Next slide, please. And then of course we can have a pretty good following on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Nextdoor, and Instagram. Those are really important places to reach to our residents and businesses. So we'll be using those as modes of communication. We certainly will do some press releases and work and identify story opportunities to put out to the local TV, print, radio, etc., and non-line news outlets. We can also focus on our ethnic media groups and multilingual audiences as is appropriate. Certainly we have a lot of business in Aurora that are folks who speak other languages as their primary language. So we're mindful, and that will be a piece of our outreach as well. And then we will certainly include this in our This is Aurora weekly e-newsletter in the monthly water bill insert, which goes to every person who has a water bill or has a water account. We'll do some TV segments. The nice thing about those is we can provide those to council as well. So you have video segments to help push this out. We can customize some emails, social posts and emails and such for council to use as well with your constituencies. And you can see here, we'll be reaching out to our neighborhood association leaders. They all have publications and communication channels as well. Our immigrant and refugee communities through the Office of International and Immigrant Affairs, liquor license holders, marijuana license holders, and then tax and licensing when that's applicable. Again, we can't really use that system for every kind of communication, but things that pertain to licensing and taxes and business, we could customize those messages and send out that way. So I see that Councilmember Zvonek, you had your you're off mute there for a moment. Did you want to?
No, I'm off mute.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right,
just-
very good. So those are the tactics we'll be using to reach out. The messaging platform and the branding will be what we need to work on next. So we're going to need to work with our staff peers to get more details, especially in the development review process, because the details there matter a lot to the people who do business here, and we understand that. So we'll need to start developing those messaging platforms. We wanted you to see our overall approach and get your feedback on that. So
Any, wait, go ahead, Kim. Are you finished?
that's what we had to present today. Yes.
Thank you. This is very helpful. I'm going to open it up to my colleagues and see if they have any feedback, questions.
I think.
Councilmember
Sorry.
Marcano.
I was just going to say, I think that's a very robust outreach plan, and thank you for putting that together, Kim.
Yep.
And I was going to say this exact same thing.
Great. No, I agree. I think it's great. And, you know, to the extent we can be helpful, let us know, but I really appreciate it. And frankly, all staff that's been helpful. Kim, you mentioned, you know, we got this up and running and was able to make some progress. Wouldn't happen without all of you. So thank you, Greg. And I know Jason and Laura and their teams have done a lot of work. And that's part of what I want to make sure we're sharing is that within public works and planning, there's a lot of things that they're doing that people aren't going to see, but that are really going to have a meaningful impact on the business environment in Aurora. And I want to make sure it's celebrated and highlighted that they're being responsive to the business community and trying to make our city more business friendly. So thank you to everybody. And Kim, as we move forward, let us know if you know what you need in order to continue to promote the communication plan. Look forward to seeing the final version of the website. I think that's helpful, and I know that I will be doing my part to help get it out to the community.
Thank you. I would say if you have any particular thoughts about what you want our brand to convey, I guess Michael and I chatted. I want to thank him for all his work. He's done a great amount of work. Thank you. But is to be able to convey to people that and the Aurora here for business may or may not be something we would propose and land on. But the point is, not only are we here for you as business, but this is your place for business in Aurora. So we want that to be conveyed through this work. And I hope that that's what we've been hearing the council members here talk about, and your work has been focused on. So please, either offline or now, share with us any specific thoughts or places you don't want us to go, and then we'll present that back. Would it be acceptable for us to email this group with some of those specific options and get feedback from you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Super.
Absolutely.
Okay, very good.
I was going to ask a question about that branding
Yes.
part.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I know, you know, we were kind of earlier using open for business, but we've always been open for business. So I guess we don't want to go that direction. But yeah, I look forward to your suggestions to the group.
Super. Yeah, if anybody has a great idea, jot it down and send it our way. But we just wanted to have this conversation first, but we will be presenting those back to you along with overarching messaging. And I do want to note that we recognize we also have to speak to our residents at the same time to have them understand why the business focus is so strong and why it matters so much that we're really efficient in how we do business, because it helps them. And businesses are the places, they're the ones who bring the jobs. And so we want to tie that all together in some of the overarching messaging as well.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else for Kim or Michael? Okay. Well, we're at the end. Is there anything else that anybody wants to bring up for the good of the order? Otherwise,
We should have a celebration.
Otherwise, we will do what we said we were going to do, and we'll say that this is the final red tape reduction ad hoc committee. And
But,
look
but
forward
we
to-
need to do a red tape, like an actual red tape, and then cut it.
So it's gone.
Cutting.
No permanent committees, just, but I appreciate all the committee members, thank you for your taking time to do this. I know this is a +1 to, the work that you're already doing, so thank you. And obviously, as I mentioned earlier to staff, that this stuff doesn't happen without you all, it just doesn't, so thank you. And I look forward to the updates on PED, and if there's anything else that you all need from, the members of this committee, just let us know. We're still here, even if this committee isn't any longer. So with that, thank you all, and meeting adjourned.
All right. Take care, y'all.
Bye, everyone.
See ya.
Bye.